My fiancée publicly humiliated me at a party. I walked out and haven't looked back. So I've been with my fiancée Chloe for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. I'm a restaurant manager, she works in marketing. On paper, we seemed solid. But last Saturday night changed everything. We were at a dinner party with about 10 of our friends. Mixed group, some from her work, some mutual friends, my buddy Josh from the restaurant. Normal evening, wine flowing, good food, everyone relaxed. Then someone brought up the topic of kids and starting families. You know how these conversations go when you're in your 30s. I made some joke about how I'd probably be the dad who burns breakfast but tries really hard. Everyone laughed. Then Chloe, sitting right next to me, turned to me with this little smile that didn't reach her eyes and said, "Honestly, you can barely take care of yourself. Why would I want to have kids with you?" The entire table went silent. Like that uncomfortable silence where people suddenly find their wine glasses fascinating. I could feel everyone's eyes darting between us, not knowing where to look. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. For a second I just sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, trying to process what she just said. Chloe laughed, this nervous little laugh, and touched my arm. "I'm kidding. You know I'm kidding, right?" But she wasn't kidding. I could see it in her eyes, that slight smirk. This wasn't a joke that slipped out. I set down my fork carefully. I felt my face get hot, my hands were shaking, but I kept my expression as neutral as I could. Then I took a breath and looked at Chloe. "Thanks for being honest about how you feel. I think that tells me everything I need to know about our future together." Her face changed then. The smirk disappeared. "Wait, what, Daniel?" I stood up and grabbed my jacket from the back of my chair. "Thanks for dinner," I said to the host. "I'll see myself out." "Daniel, don't be so dramatic," Chloe hissed, reaching for my arm. "Sit down." I pulled my arm away gently but firmly. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." I walked to my car while my phone started buzzing in my pocket. I didn't look at it, just drove home, poured myself a bourbon, and sat there thinking. Here's the thing that nobody at that table knew. This wasn't a surprise, not really. Chloe had been making comments like this for months. Little digs about my job not being impressive enough. Comparing me to her friends' boyfriends who were lawyers or worked in tech. Making jokes about my paycheck when we were out with her work friends. I'd brought it up privately before, and she'd always say I was being too sensitive or that she was just joking. But you know what? When someone repeatedly tells you they don't respect you, believe them, even if they tell you it's just joking. I've been slowly realizing over the past few months that I was more like a project to her than a partner, someone she wanted to improve rather than someone she actually valued. So yeah, I'd been preparing, not because I planned to end things, but because I knew I might need an exit strategy. Our lives were deeply intertwined. You don't just untangle 3 years together and 6 months engaged overnight. The apartment lease is only in my name. We kept separate bank accounts because she wanted to maintain independence. I made sure all my important documents were organized. We hadn't exactly put anything down for the wedding either. So yeah, basically it was already done. We were done, just like that, nothing much to deal with. Now I'm sitting here 2 days later. Chloe has been blowing up my phone non-stop, and I haven't responded to any of her messages. I'm not trying to punish her or play games. I'm just done. I've spent 3 years trying to be enough for someone who clearly thinks I'm not, and I'm exhausted. The crazy part, I feel lighter than I have in months. Like I've been holding my breath underwater and finally came up for air. Edit to answer some questions. Yes, I'm sure about this decision. No, I'm not planning to talk to her. Some of you are asking about the ring. Yeah, I'll need to deal with that. I paid for it, been making payments on it actually. I'll figure that out soon. Someone asked about what happened after I left the party. From what Josh told me, there was super awkward silence for like 2 minutes. Then Chloe tried to laugh it off, saying I was being dramatic. Her friend Megan backed her up, saying I can't take a joke. But apparently most people at the table weren't having it. A couple of them said what she did was messed up. She ended up leaving about 20 minutes after I did. Josh said she looked embarrassed but kept trying to act like everything was fine. Update 1. It's been 5 days since the dinner party incident, and things have escalated in ways I didn't expect. So after I walked out, I decided to go full no contact. I haven't responded to any of Chloe's calls, texts, or attempts to reach me. It's not because I'm trying to be cruel or play some kind of power game. I just genuinely have nothing to say to her. What's done is done, and I'm not interested in having some big dramatic fight where she tries to justify what she said or I end up looking like the emotional one. But apparently my silence is driving her crazy. The first night I got about 20 texts. They started with "Where did you go?" and "We need to talk about this," and escalated to "You're being so immature right now." I read them but didn't respond. The next morning she called me 6 times before 9 a.m. I sent them all to voicemail. By day 3 the messages changed tone. "I didn't mean it the way it sounded. You know I love you. We've been together for 3 years. You're really going to throw that away over one comment?" The answer is yes, Chloe. Yes, I am. When she realized I was serious about not talking to her, she started posting on social media. Vague stuff about people giving up too easily and fighting for what matters. A photo of her and Megan with a caption about "real friends who stick by you." I didn't engage, but I noticed. That's when I realized she wasn't just panicking about losing me. She was panicking about losing control of the situation. Then yesterday, things got interesting. I got a call from an unknown number. Ignored it. They called back immediately. I figured it might be important, so I answered. It was Megan, Chloe's best friend. "Daniel, what the hell are you doing?" she started without even saying hello. "You're really going to blow up your entire relationship because you got your feelings hurt over one joke?" I actually laughed. "Megan, with all due respect, this isn't your business." "She's my best friend, so yeah, it is my business. You're being ridiculous." So she said something insensitive. People say stuff they don't mean when they've had wine all the time. Are you really so fragile that you can't handle one comment? Here's where I kind of surprised myself. Old me would have tried to explain or justify my feelings. New me was done with that. Let me ask you something. If your boyfriend stood up in front of all your friends and said you weren't worth having kids with, would you marry him? Silence. Here's the thing, Megan. Saying something hurtful once might be an accident, but saying it repeatedly, that's just who they are, and I'm done pretending otherwise. More silence. Tell Chloe that I'm not fragile. I'm just done accepting less than the bare minimum of respect. Have a good day. I hung up. My hands were shaking a little because confrontation isn't my style, but I also felt weirdly proud of myself. About an hour later, Josh texted me. "Dude, Megan is blowing up the group chat saying you're being unreasonable, but honestly most people are on your side. Brooke said what Chloe did was horrible and she'd have done the same thing." That actually made me feel better. Meanwhile, I've been keeping myself busy, hitting the gym every morning before work. It's been years since I've had a consistent routine, and I forgot how good it feels. I've been cooking actual meals instead of just grabbing whatever. Been hanging out with Josh and some other guys from work. Last night we went to this new brewery that opened downtown. Just guys being idiots, talking about sports and work and nothing deep. It was exactly what I needed. The thing is, I'm realizing how much energy I was putting into managing Chloe's opinion of me. Trying to prove I was successful enough, ambitious enough, impressive enough. Without that constant background noise, I can just exist and do my job well without performing. Last night, I started packing up Chloe's stuff from the apartment. She has a lot here: clothes, toiletries, books, that expensive coffee maker she insisted we needed. I bought plastic bins and started organizing everything. It felt therapeutic, honestly. Like physically closing a chapter. I know at some point I'll have to talk to her to return her things and officially end the engagement. I'm just not ready yet, and that's okay. For the first time in a long time, I'm putting my own timeline and comfort first. Edit. Someone asked what happened to the engagement ring. I still have it. I've been paying it off monthly for the past year. Still owe about $2,000 on it. Legally it's mine since she's the one who caused the breakup, but honestly I don't want it around. I'm probably going to finish paying it off and then see if the jeweler will buy it back or I'll sell it. Update 2. This happened yesterday evening and I'm still processing it, so bear with me if this is a bit scattered. I got home from work around 6 p.m. Long day, tired, looking forward to heating up some leftovers and watching the game. I walked into my apartment building and immediately saw Chloe's car in the visitor parking. My stomach dropped a little, but I also felt this weird sense of calm. Like, okay, here we go. Time to end this properly. I walked to my door and she was sitting on the floor in the hallway, leaning against the wall. When she saw me, she jumped up. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged. The dramatic display I'd been expecting. Daniel, thank God. We need to talk. You can't just ignore me forever. I unlocked my door. Come inside. This shouldn't be a hallway conversation. She followed me in and I watched her face change when she saw the living room. Remember how I mentioned I'd been packing her stuff? I'd finished it all. 4 large plastic bins neatly stacked by the door, everything labeled. I'd spent my entire Sunday organizing it all. What? What is this? She was staring at the bins like she couldn't process what she was seeing. Your things, I figured you'd want them back. Daniel, this is insane. You're acting like we already broke up. I said one thing that came out wrong. I shook head. No, Chloe, we are done. I said nothing. Just went straight to the kitchen counter where I'd left an envelope, picked it up and handed it to her. This is for you. Her hands were shaking as she opened it. Inside was a small stack of photos, all the pictures we'd taken together over 3 years. Every vacation, every dinner, every moment I'd thought was building towards something. She pulled out the photos and just stared at them. What? What is this? Our history. I figured you'd want copies. I paused. I'm keeping the ring, though. I'm still paying it off, and legally it's mine now that the engagement is off. That's when she started crying. Real crying, not the performance kind. She sat down on my couch and put her face in her hands. I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I was showing off for Megan and I said something stupid. I stared at her. You were showing off by putting me down. I don't know why I said it. But Daniel, 3 years. We've been together for 3 years. You're going to throw that away because I made one mistake. I sat down in the chair across from her. Chloe, be honest with yourself. Was it really just one mistake? She looked up at me, mascara running down her face. Think about it, I continued. How many times have you made comments about my job not being impressive enough? About me not being ambitious enough? About how I should be making more money or driving a better car or dressing differently? How many times have you compared me to your friends' boyfriends and made it clear I didn't measure up? I was trying to motivate you. She tried, but her voice was shaky. No, you were trying to change me into someone I'm not. And the worst part is I let you. I spent 3 years trying to be enough for someone who doesn't respect who I am. That's not true. I do respect you. Then why did you tell a room full of people that I can barely take care of myself? Why did you say you wouldn't want to have kids with someone like me? My voice stayed calm, but I could feel the emotion behind it. If you respected me, you wouldn't say things like that, joke or not. She tried to reach for my hand. I pulled back. I was drunk. People say stupid things when they're drunk. You'd had 2 glasses of wine. You weren't drunk. You were honest. And you know what? I'm grateful. Because now I don't have to wonder anymore if I'm crazy for feeling disrespected. You showed me exactly how you see me, and I believe you. The thing that surprised me was how calm I felt saying all this. I wasn't yelling or crying or even particularly angry. I was just stating facts. This relationship had been over for a while, we just hadn't admitted it yet. Chloe sat there for a long moment, then said quietly, I can change. I can be better. I'll never say anything like that again. I believe you probably wouldn't, but Chloe, I don't want to be with someone who has to consciously stop themselves from disrespecting me. I want to be with someone who respects me naturally, who builds me up instead of tears me down, who's proud of who I am instead of trying to remodel me. So that's it? You're just done? Yeah, I'm done. She stood up and looked at me for a long moment, and I think she finally realized I was serious, that this wasn't some negotiation or power play. You're really doing this? I already did it. I did it the moment I walked out of that party. She picked up one of the bins, struggling with the weight. I didn't offer to help. She made 2 more trips to carry everything to her car while I stayed in the apartment. On her last trip, she stood in the doorway and said, You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. She left. I closed the door and just stood there for a minute. Then I noticed she'd left the envelope with the photos on the coffee table. I picked it up and put it in the recycling bin. She didn't want them. Well, neither did I. About an hour later, Josh showed up with pizza and beer. Figured you might need company. How'd you know? Megan posted some cryptic shit in the group chat about people giving up on relationships too easily. I put two and two together. He handed me a beer. How are you feeling? Honestly, free, lighter. Is that weird? Nah man, that's exactly how you should feel. We ate pizza and watched the game and didn't talk about Chloe at all. It was perfect. Edit. For everyone asking, the group chat situation is interesting. Josh showed me some of the messages. Megan is definitely trying to paint me as the bad guy, but it's not really working. Most people saw what happened at the party. A couple of Chloe's work friends are supporting her, but even some of her other friends are basically saying she messed up. Brooke apparently wrote, "Actions have consequences," which made Megan lose it. Final update. It's been about 3 weeks since my last update, and I wanted to give you guys a final wrap-up on everything. A lot has happened. First thing, I finished paying off the engagement ring last week. Took the last $2,000 out of my savings and just cleared it. The jeweler offered to buy it back at about 60% of what I paid, which honestly isn't terrible considering. I took the deal. That money is going toward my Colorado ski trip and maybe a new couch for the apartment. I also reached out to Chloe's sister to let her know we'd officially ended things. We'd always gotten along pretty well, and I felt like I owed her a heads up rather than having her hear it through the grapevine. She actually called me back and said she was sorry about how things ended. She mentioned she'd witnessed Chloe's behavior toward me at family gatherings and had wondered how long I'd put up with it. That was validating in a weird way. But here's where things get interesting, and this is the part I really wanted to update you guys about because it's still unfolding. About a week and a half ago, I got a text from Chloe. Just 3 words. "I miss us." I saw it, left it on read, didn't respond. Some of you might think that's cold, but I knew exactly what would happen if I engaged. We'd have some long emotional conversation where she'd promise to change, I'd feel guilty, and we'd end up right back in the same cycle. No thanks. She sent a few more messages over the next couple days. "Can we at least talk? I know I messed up, but we can fix this." 3 years has to mean something. I read them all. Didn't respond to any of them. Last week, I ran into a few people from the dinner party at a bar downtown. Brooke and Mike, the couple who'd been pretty vocal about Chloe being out of line. They waved me over and we ended up talking for a while. They told me that the fallout in the friend group has been bigger than I realized. Apparently, after the bins incident, Chloe had a complete meltdown in the group chat. Started sending long messages about how I was cruel and heartless for throwing her out and packing her things like garbage. Megan backed her up hard, saying I was punishing Chloe for one mistake, but Brooke said it backfired completely. Someone in the chat pointed out that Chloe's stuff was organized in labeled bins, which wasn't exactly treating it like garbage. And someone else mentioned that maybe, if you publicly humiliate your fiancé, you shouldn't be surprised when he decides he's done. The whole thing apparently devolved into this huge argument. The end result: the friend group basically split. Chloe and Megan have their little duo of support, maybe 2 other people. Everyone else has basically distanced themselves from both of them. Not because people took my side specifically, but because watching how Chloe handled the aftermath showed them more about her character. Brooke said Chloe kept demanding everyone validate her feelings and got angry when people wouldn't agree that I was the villain. But wait, it gets better. 2 weeks ago, Chloe started trying to reach out again. Not apologetic messages this time, though. She'd switched tactics. Started posting on social media again about knowing your worth and not accepting less than you deserve. Lots of quotes about strong women and not settling. Real subtle, right? Then her posts got more specific. Pictures of her out with friends, captions about living my best life and grateful for people who support me unconditionally. Then last Friday, she posted a photo at a really nice restaurant downtown with some guy I didn't recognize. Caption was something about new adventures with a heart emoji. Cool, whatever. Good for her, honestly. Except here's the thing, Josh told me that Megan had apparently been coaching Chloe to make me jealous by posting stuff like that. The guy in the photo, her coworker who's gay and happily married. The whole thing was staged to get a reaction from me, but it gets better. The coworker had no idea Chloe was using him like that. When he saw the post with the caption implying they were on a date, he commented right on it. "Chloe, what is this? You know I'm married. This is weird." Apparently it got a bunch of likes before she panicked deleted the whole post. Josh said the screenshots were circulating in the group chat and people were cringing hard. I've even been on a couple dates. Nothing serious, just coffee and dinner with a woman I met at the gym. Her name's Amy, she's a physical therapist, really easy to talk to. We've been texting pretty regularly. I posted a photo of us at a coffee shop last week. Nothing romantic, just two people smiling, and didn't think much of it. Apparently, Chloe saw it, or someone told her about it, because 2 days after I posted that photo, I got a long email from Chloe, not asking to get back together, not apologizing. It was basically a manifesto listing all the ways I'd failed as a partner and warning that whoever this new woman is, she'll figure it out too. Things like how I didn't support her career enough, how I never wanted to go to the events she wanted to attend, how I was emotionally unavailable and couldn't handle a strong woman. The kicker was the last paragraph. I hope she realizes what she's getting into before she wastes 3 years like I did. You'll never change, and she'll leave you just like I should have left you a long time ago. It was wild, honestly. Like she'd rewritten our entire 3-year relationship in her head. In her version, apparently she was the victim who stayed too long with someone beneath her, not the person who publicly humiliated her fiancé at a dinner party. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to Josh with the message, "Well, dodged that bullet," and deleted it. Then I blocked her on everything. Amy and I are still talking, and I'm not rushing into anything, but it's nice to have conversation with someone who asks about my day and actually listens to the answer instead of waiting for their turn to talk about themselves. Chloe expected me to fight for her. She expected me to come crawling back, begging for another chance, promising to change. When I didn't, when I just calmly removed her from my life and moved on, it completely threw her. She can't handle that narrative. In her version of events, she's the catch and I'm the one who should be devastated. Instead, I've been going out with friends. I've been genuinely happy, and she can't stand it. I'm 32 years old. I have a career I'm good at and actually enjoy. I have real friends who showed up for me when it mattered. I have my own apartment, my own life, my own peace. I'm not willing to trade any of that for someone who sees me as a project instead of a partner. Thanks for everything, Reddit. I'm out. Edit. Since people are asking, yes, Chloe did eventually get the message that I'm done. After the email got no response, she tried calling from different numbers a few times. I blocked them all. Haven't heard anything in about a week now. I think she's finally realized I mean it. My fiancée just blindsided me with a prenup demand at her parents' house. So Allison and I have been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. We're supposed to get married in 4 months. I'm a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company. She works in fashion marketing for a boutique firm downtown. We've been planning our life together meticulously, including buying a house that we were supposed to close on in 2 weeks. Last Sunday, Allison invited me to dinner at her parents' house in their upscale suburban neighborhood. Her mom Marlene had made this elaborate spread, prime rib, roasted vegetables, homemade bread, the works. Her dad Greg was being unusually friendly. Normally Greg treats me politely but distantly, like I'm not quite good enough for his daughter. That night was different. He was asking detailed questions about my work, complimenting my choice of wine, even laughing at my jokes. I remember thinking it was nice that they were finally taking genuine interest in me as a person and potential son-in-law. Halfway through dinner, Allison suddenly put down her fork and got this serious, almost rehearsed look on her face. "Sean, I've been thinking a lot about our future and financial security." She then reached under her chair and pulled out this manila folder, sliding it across the table like we were in a boardroom instead of her family dining room. I think we should sign a prenuptial agreement before the wedding." I was staring at this folder with my name already typed on a tab, while her parents were nodding along like this was all choreographed. My stomach dropped, but not just because of the surprise. It was the realization that this whole dinner had been a setup. I opened the folder with Allison, her parents, and the smell of prime rib all watching me. The prenup wasn't just about protecting assets we each brought into the marriage. It was demanding complete financial separation going forward. Separate bank accounts, separate credit cards, separate investments, separate everything. Even our emergency fund would be split and maintained separately. But the part that really got me was the real estate clause. The house we were buying together would be titled solely in Allison's name. According to this document, if we divorced, I'd walk away with nothing regardless of how much I'd contributed to mortgage payments, improvements, or maintenance. I asked why she suddenly wanted this when we'd never discussed it before. Her mom immediately jumped in, not giving Allison a chance to answer herself. "It's just smart financial planning, Sean. Surely someone in your field understands the importance of protecting one's assets." The way she said "someone in your field" felt condescending, like she was explaining basic math to a child. Her dad added, "It's nothing personal, just business. You understand business, right?" He gestured around their expensive dining room. "This is how people like us protect what we've built." But here's what was driving me crazy. When we started planning the house purchase, Allison was the one pushing for both our names on everything. She said it would show we were truly committed and building something together as partners. Now suddenly, she wants legal separation of everything we build as a married couple. I closed the folder and looked up at the three faces staring at me expectantly. I need time to think about this and review it with a lawyer. The silence that followed was deafening. Allison's fork clattered against her plate. "A lawyer," Allison's voice pitched higher, her eyes widening like I'd just slapped her. "Sean, I thought you'd be more mature about this. This is about understanding the realities of modern marriage." Marlene set down her wine glass and leaned forward. "Sean, realistic expectations are what make marriages last. I have friends, successful, intelligent women, whose marriages failed because of financial naivety." Her voice carried that particular tone wealthy people use when explaining obvious things to lesser mortals. Take my friend Patricia. She trusted completely, kept everything joint, and when her husband's business failed, she lost half of everything she'd worked for. Greg leaned back in his chair with this smug expression and said, "Sean, you seem like a smart guy. Smart guys understand that emotions and business shouldn't mix." I left feeling completely blindsided and manipulated. The drive home was a blur. I kept replaying the evening, looking for signs I should have caught. We talked about money before, and while Allison likes nice things and expensive restaurants, I never thought she was calculating about it. But sitting at that table, with her parents backing her up like a board of directors, it felt like I was being presented with a hostile takeover disguised as a marriage proposal. The more I think about it, the more questions I have. Why wait until 2 weeks before our house closing? Or is it about waiting until I'm financially tied down with major purchases? Why the complete 180 from wanting everything joint to everything separate? And why did her parents seem so prepared with responses to objections I hadn't even raised yet? I haven't slept well since Sunday. Every time I close my eyes, I see that folder with my name on it and remember the feeling of being ambushed by people I thought cared about me. Am I overreacting? Is this normal? Because right now it feels like my fiancée and her family just tried to manipulate me into signing away my rights to everything we'll build together, while I still contribute equally to building it. Edit. Thanks for all the responses. Reading through these comments is helping me see this more clearly. Someone asked about our financial situation. I make about $120K as a senior software engineer. She makes around $75K in marketing. We've been splitting most expenses proportionally based on income, though I've been covering more of our joint costs because I earn more. The house down payment is coming from both our savings. I'm contributing $35K. She's contributing $15K. Under her prenup, I'd be paying into an asset that would be entirely hers. Update 1. Well, that escalated quickly, and I'm apparently now the villain of this story according to Allison and her entire family. First, I called my lawyer Monday morning. James has handled some contract reviews for me before, and I trust his judgment. His reaction when I described the prenup was immediate. "Sean, this is one of the most one-sided documents I've ever seen. Don't sign this." He spent 20 minutes going through each clause, explaining how I'd be legally vulnerable in ways I hadn't even considered. The house clause was particularly egregious. Not only would I have no ownership stake, but I'd be responsible for half the mortgage payments, property taxes, and maintenance costs on an asset that would be entirely hers if we divorced. Essentially, I'd be paying Allison to live in a house she owns. But here's what really opened my eyes. James pointed out that Allison could have gotten reasonable asset protection without completely screwing me over. A fair prenup might protect premarital assets while still allowing for joint ownership of things we build together. This wasn't about security. It was about creating maximum advantage for her while leaving me exposed to maximum risk. "Sean," he said, "this reads like someone who's already planning for divorce while expecting you to subsidize her life until that happens." That consultation cost me $400, but it was worth every penny for the clarity. So I made two decisions that have apparently branded me as a manipulative monster. One, I'm not signing the prenup as written. Two, I'm withdrawing from the house purchase immediately. I called our realtor Monday afternoon and removed my name from all the paperwork. Since I was contributing $35K of the $50K down payment, and Allison can't qualify for the mortgage on her income alone, this effectively killed the deal. Our realtor was sympathetic but professional. She'd seen this happen before with couples who discovered financial incompatibility late in the process. I also moved $50K from our joint savings account into my personal checking account. Before anyone jumps on me for this was my money that I'd saved over the past 4 years working 60-hour weeks and living frugally. I'd moved it to our joint account 6 months ago when we started seriously planning the house purchase. With everything that's happening, I needed to protect my assets the same way Allison was protecting hers. Allison found out about the account when she tried to check the balance Tuesday morning. She called me at work, and I could hear her screaming from across my cubicle. She accused me of sabotaging our relationship and stealing from us. When I tried to explain that I wasn't comfortable with the prenup terms and that the house purchase didn't make financial sense under those conditions, she hung up on me. That evening, Marlene called my personal cell phone. She was furious but trying to maintain that fake sweet voice she uses when she wants something. She told me I was being petty and vindictive, and that I was punishing Allison for being responsible and mature. She said Allison had already told her friends and coworkers about the house, even posting about it on social media, and now she'd be embarrassed to explain why it fell through. "Sean, sweetheart," she said in this condescending tone, "Allison is just trying to protect herself. Surely you want your future wife to feel secure." When I pointed out that her idea of Allison's security involved my financial insecurity, Marlene's voice got cold. "Well, maybe you're not as committed to this relationship as we thought." Then Greg called an hour later. He tried a completely different approach, the reasonable businessman act. He said he understood my concerns and maybe we could renegotiate some of the prenup terms to make me more comfortable. But then he added that I should still go through with the house purchase to show good faith and prove I was serious about working together. I told him that if Allison wanted financial separation, she'd get complete financial separation. I wasn't going to pay into assets I'd have no claim to or support someone who was legally protecting herself from having to support me. "You're being emotional, Sean," he said. "This is just business. Don't let pride destroy something good." Here's what really pisses me off. None of them seem to understand that they created this situation. Allison ambushed me with a one-sided legal document designed to benefit her at my expense, and now they're angry that I'm protecting myself using the same logic they applied to protecting her. Allison hasn't spoken to me since Tuesday. Her friends have been texting me calling me an asshole and saying I'm ruining everything over money. Her sister Kim left me a voicemail saying I'm destroying Allison's life and that I should think about what really matters. But here's the thing, I feel clearer than I have in months. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Allison showed me she sees our marriage as a business arrangement where she gets the benefits and security while I take the financial risks and obligations. Edit. Someone asked about the joint account. Yes, I took only my contributions plus my share of interest earned. I have records of every deposit going back 4 years. Allison contributed about $12K to that account over 6 months. Her money is still there. She can't claim I took anything that belonged to her because I have documentation of everything. Update 2. This situation has gone completely nuclear, and I'm discovering things about Allison and her family that are making me question our entire 3-year relationship. The house deal officially fell through Wednesday when Allison couldn't secure financing. She lost the $5K earnest money deposit because she couldn't meet the commitment without my income and down payment contribution. According to our realtor, Allison spent 45 minutes on the phone screaming at her, demanding she fix this, and threatening to sue for enabling Sean's sabotage. But instead of stepping back and considering why I made these decisions, Allison's family has doubled down on increasingly desperate attempts to pressure me into reversing course. Thursday morning, Marlene showed up at my workplace. She somehow got past building security and cornered me in the parking garage as I was leaving for lunch. She was crying and telling me how I was destroying her daughter's dreams and how Allison had been looking forward to that house for months. "Sean, please," she said, grabbing my arm. "Allison has already planned where the furniture would go. You're breaking her heart over paperwork." I told her that Allison broke my trust when she tried to legally exclude me from ownership while still expecting me to pay for everything. That's when Marlene offered what she called a compromise. I could go back to the original house deal, contribute my $35K, and Allison would consider modifying the prenup after we were married. When I said that wasn't remotely acceptable, Marlene's whole demeanor changed. The tears stopped, her voice got sharp, and she told me I was being unreasonable and selfish. She said that men who really love their partners don't need legal guarantees because real love means trust. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost insulting. "Allison could have any man she wants," Marlene said, getting nasty. "She chose you. Don't throw that away because you can't handle a successful woman protecting herself." I told her to leave me alone and walked back into my building. Security escorted her out. Friday evening, Greg called and tried yet another approach. This time he was playing the generous father-in-law role. He offered to personally guarantee that I'd be taken care of if Allison and I ever divorced. When I asked what that meant legally, he got vague and said they were good people who would do right by me and that I should trust the family. I told him I don't make major financial decisions based on verbal promises from people who are clearly biased toward their daughter's interests. "You're being paranoid, Sean," he said. "We're trying to bring you into the family, but you're acting like we're your enemies." Then Greg offered something that made my jaw drop. He would personally loan Allison the money for the down payment so she could buy the house herself. But here's the kicker. He wanted me to co-sign the mortgage because she still can't qualify for the loan amount on her income alone. Let me repeat that. He wanted me to co-sign debt for a house I wouldn't own, secured by money I wouldn't control, to benefit a woman who doesn't want to share assets with me but still wants me legally responsible for her obligations. I laughed. I actually laughed at him over the phone. "Greg, you want me to take financial responsibility without getting financial benefit. That's exactly the same with what the prenup does. The answer is no." "You're making a mistake, Sean," he said before hanging up. "Allison won't wait forever. But the real revelation came Saturday morning. Allison's cousin Jessica called me around 10 a.m. Jessica and I have always gotten along well. She's about my age, works in finance, and we've had good conversations at family gatherings. She said she was concerned about what she was hearing from the family and wanted to get my side of the story. During our conversation, Jessica let slip something that made my blood run cold. She mentioned how Greg and Marlene had been telling everyone in their family that Allison was smart to protect herself because you never know if Sean's tech job will last. And apparently, Allison agreed with her parents. When I asked what she meant, Jessica realized she'd said too much. Her voice changed and she started backtracking. But after some pressing, she admitted that they had been talking for months about how unstable tech careers are and how Allison needed to plan for the worst-case scenario. She said the tech bubble is going to burst again, Jessica explained reluctantly. She thinks your job could disappear overnight, and she doesn't want to be stuck supporting you when it happens. I felt sick. Allison had been planning this prenup for months. While I was planning our wedding, researching venues, and thinking about our shared future, she was consulting lawyers about how to legally separate herself from the consequences of my potential failure. Jessica, I said, has Allison ever said anything positive about my career or our financial future together? There was a long pause. Sean, I think Allison loves you, but she's practical. I thanked Jessica for her honesty and hung up. Then I sat in my apartment for 2 hours, thinking about every conversation Allison and I had ever had about money, careers, and the future. Suddenly, her comments about wanting to be secure and independent took on a different meaning. She wasn't talking about being secure together, she was talking about being secure from me. Edit. Someone asked about my job security. I work for a stable company that's been profitable for over a decade. I have excellent performance reviews, relevant skills, and 6 months of emergency savings. The tech industry surely has its ups and downs, but so does every other industry, and I'm not some startup kid whose job could vanish tomorrow. Allison's fears seem based on media stereotypes rather than my actual situation. Final update. It's over. The engagement is officially off, and despite the pain, I'm honestly relieved. After my last update, several people urged me to have one final honest conversation with Allison before making any permanent decisions. I agreed that I owed it to our 3-year relationship to try one more time, even though I was pretty sure where it would lead. I texted Allison Sunday afternoon asking if we could meet privately to talk through everything without her family involved. She agreed, and we met Monday evening at the coffee shop where we had our first date. Allison looked exhausted. She was dressed perfectly as always, but I could see the stress in her eyes. We ordered our usual drinks and sat in the corner booth we used to think of as our spot. I started by telling her what Jessica had revealed about her months of planning and her concerns about my career stability. I kept my voice calm and non-accusatory. Allison, I need to ask you directly. Have you been planning this prenup because you expect my career to fail? Allison's response told me everything I needed to know. She didn't deny it. She didn't look surprised that I knew. Instead, she got defensive and said she was just being realistic about the tech industry. Sean, you have to understand, she said, leaning forward with that earnest expression she uses when she wants me to agree with her. I've seen what happens when women don't protect themselves. My friend Jenna's husband was unemployed for 2 years. 2 years, Sean. She had to support him, pay all the bills, cover his health insurance. She almost lost her house. I asked her why she didn't talk to me about these concerns instead of secretly planning legal protection from our marriage. She looked genuinely confused by the question. I didn't want to hurt your feelings or make you insecure about your job, she said, but I needed to look out for myself. That's just being practical. So instead of having a conversation with your future husband about financial planning and career security, you decided to legally protect yourself from having to support me if I go through hard times. Sean, be realistic, she said, getting frustrated. I've worked too hard to build my life to risk losing it because of circumstances beyond my control. Then came the moment that ended it for me. I asked her the question that had been haunting me. Allison, if you think my career is so unstable and you're afraid of having to support me, why do you want to marry me at all? Her answer hit me like a punch to the gut. Because I love you, but love doesn't pay the bills. I need to be practical about my future. That's when I knew we were completely done. Not because she had financial concerns, those are legitimate. Not because she wanted some protection, that's understandable. But because in her mind, there was no our future. There was only her future to worry about. Allison, I said, marriage is supposed to be about building something together, supporting each other through good times and bad. You're asking me to marry someone who's already planning for my failure and protecting herself from having to be there for me during difficult times. She started crying then, saying that wasn't what she meant, that I was twisting her words and being dramatic. She said she did want to build something together, but she also needed to be responsible. We can still work this out, she said through tears. I can modify some of the prenup terms. We can find a different house. You just need to understand where I'm coming from. But I was done. I told her I couldn't marry someone who saw me as a financial risk to be managed rather than a partner to trust. I've spent the last 3 days moving my stuff out of our shared apartment. Allison has been texting me asking to talk through this rationally, but there's nothing left to discuss. The wedding vendors are being contacted. Most have been understanding, especially when I explained that the engagement ended due to irreconcilable differences about financial partnership. Some deposits are lost, but that's a small price to pay for avoiding a marriage that was already doomed. My groomsmen have been incredibly supportive. My best man Tom said, "Dude, you dodged a bullet. A wife who's planning for your failure before you're even married. That's not a partner, that's a parasite." To everyone who shared their stories and advice throughout this process, thank you. You helped me see that I wasn't overreacting and that protecting myself wasn't selfish. Edit. Allison's family has been reaching out trying to get me to reconsider. Marlene left a voicemail saying Allison made a mistake and has learned her lesson, and that young women sometimes get bad advice. Greg texted offering to pay for couples counseling and saying Allison is willing to compromise. They still don't understand that this wasn't about money. It was about trust, communication, and partnership. I had to block them all eventually. My lawyer James has been helping me make sure all joint obligations are properly separated and that I'm protected during this process. Everything is documented, my money is secured, and my name is off all shared commitments. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. This will really be my last update. Time to move on with my life.